welcome back to week 4 of the crochet along for the Moonflower Bolero, and today we're going to be working the end of the body section and the trim. I've now worked 16 rows here on the body. I'm making a size large, and the cropped version called for 12 rows before working the end of the body, and I'm making the waist length version this time, so this called for an additional 4 repeats, so that's 16 rows. And now we're ready to work the final 2 rows of the body and then the trim. So I just want to show you what I did with the bust shaping. I'm going to just move this over so you can see it a bit more clearly. And I actually put in a stitch marker so that I could find it myself, because honestly it really blends in, which is obviously a good thing for our bust shaping. So these clusters here are facing the opposite direction to the ones on the sleeve. So we can see the raglan seam here. And then if we count, we've got 1 row, 2, 3, and 4. And this is where I started placing my increases for my bust shaping. So then I worked into the single crochet here, and I did 1, 2, and 3 rows of increases. So that's given me 3 additional triangles on this side, and the same on the other side too, so 6 in total. And you can see round about where we started, if I just move this over a little bit to see the underarm, it's roughly on a horizontal level with the underarm seam. And then working downwards at an angle, again roughly towards my bust point. So if we straighten this out again, even though the front kind of curves around here, when I'm actually wearing it, it's coming straight down the middle over my bust. So now we are ready to do the final 2 rows, and it's only a little bit different because you might be able to see here, even though we've been decreasing, we have a little bit of a corner. So the next row is just going to round that out slightly. So if I haven't mentioned it before, this is one of the reasons I love these We Crochet hooks, because you can clip your stitch marker to the back and then you're not going to lose it. So this is the end of row number 16 for me, making the waist length version in a size large. I've done my chain 1 and turned, and I'm going to single crochet in this first stitch and chain 2. Now instead of working a double crochet 2 together, I'm going to work a double crochet 3 together to space it out slightly. So the first leg goes in this same first stitch. The second leg of the double crochet 3 together goes in the top of the next double crochet 2 together. And now then the third leg of the double crochet 3 together goes around this chain 2 space. Pull through all the loops to complete the stitch. And as previously, this counts as the first stitch of our row. So we're going to put the stitch marker in to help us in the next row. Let's just move down a little bit. We're going to chain 3 because we need just a little bit of extra length here on this section. And we're going to single crochet in the single crochet and chain 3 again. Now we do another double crochet 3 together, and we start it in this next chain 2 space and then work it in the top of the double crochet 2 together and the next. So that has just helped us to decrease a little bit more around this front edge to help us have that curve rather than a corner at the bottom. Now we're going to continue the stitch pattern as normal. So we chain 2 and single crochet in the same stitch, chain 2, and we're working our double crochet 2 together as normal here in the tops of the double crochet 2 together. And the directions tell us to continue working in stitch pattern around the back until we have 3 double crochet clusters remaining. I'm just working this last double crochet 2 together chain 2 and single crochet in the same stitch, and here I should have 3 double crochet clusters remaining. So here's, let's take the hook out. So here's the marked stitch at the beginning of the row, so that's our first double crochet cluster. Then we have another one here and our third one here. So this is where we're working into. We've got 3 clusters remaining. So we're going to chain 2 and we're going to double crochet 3 together over the same stitch, the next double crochet 2 together, which is this one, and then the next chain 2 space like we did on the other side. So we work into this stitch first with the first part of our double crochet 3 together, work into the next double crochet 2 together, and then the last leg around this chain 2 space here. And that's our double crochet 3 together that is slightly extended. Now, as we did on the other side, we chain 3 to help us reach all the way down to the single crochet, and we single crochet in the single crochet. Then we chain 3 again to get back up the other side. And now this is the last stitch, and because we're doing a sort of extended stitch, this time we're working a double crochet 4 together, and it's going over the chain 2 space into the next double crochet 2 together, and then 2 legs into this last stitch here. So we yarn over and put the first part around the chain 2 space. So we've got 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, do the second part in the top of this double crochet 2 together, then yarn over again and work the last 2 legs into this last stitch here. And remember, we do the last 2 legs in the same stitch because it sort of replaces the single crochet chain 2 and the first leg of the double crochet 2 together, which is how we start a row. So this will help the beginning of the row and the end of the row to look similar. As normal, we're leaving that last chain 2 and last single crochet unworked. The marker helped us work out which was the last stitch to work into. And we're going to turn and chain 1, or chain 1 and turn. So now this last row here is the same as we've been working previously. I've already done the chain 1, so I'm going to single crochet into the top of this double crochet 4 together and chain 2. Double crochet 2 together into this same stitch and the next double crochet cluster. There we go. I'm going to replace our stitch marker in the top of this double crochet 2 together. And I'm simply going to work again in the stitch pattern around to the other side. I'm almost back to the other side again, and I'm just going to work the end as we've previously been working the ends of the other rows. So let's take the marker out. And there was our double crochet cluster to begin. And so I'm just working a double crochet 3 together over this one, and it just has a little bit further to go. So it'll be a slightly more open triangle there. And this is the end of row 2. So now we're ready to work round 3. As you can tell, it changes from a row to a round, so it goes all the way around the back and the neckline. But because you could work this to any size, you could finish at this corner, or you could be finishing at the opposite corner. So there are separate instructions for whether you finished on the right side or the wrong side. So we finished here on the wrong side, so we're going to follow the directions for round 3B, which has us turning to the right side. If you worked the last row 2 on the right side, then you ignore that last instruction to turn and you continue working on the right side. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And let's just lay this out to help us see a little bit more clearly. So for me, finishing this round on the wrong side, I've turned to the right side and I'm in this corner. So I'm going to work a round that goes all the way around, starting with the back here. And I'm going to work a series of stitches to finish off our stitch pattern. Then we're going to work up the row ends and around the neckline and back down to here. If you're following directions for round 3A, you were finishing here at this corner. So again, with right side facing, you're going to start working up the row ends, around the neck and down the other side, and then finish off by working along the stitch pattern along the back. So round 3B, I turned and I did a chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet in this first stitch. Now I'm going to place a marker in this to mark the end, because we're not doing the regular stitch pattern anymore. We're finishing it off by doing a single crochet in the chain 2 space, a half double crochet in the single crochet, a single crochet in the chain 2 space again, and then a single crochet in the top of the double crochet 2 together. So we're basically working a round of single crochets to finish off the stitch pattern, but where there is a single crochet, we're placing a half double crochet, just so that it is a more even line across. So we're going to continue working this around, single crochet around the chain 2, half double into the single crochet around the next chain 2, and single crochet in the top of the double crochet 2 together. Single crochet around the chain space, half double into the single around the next chain 2 space, and single in the top of the double crochet 2 together. I'm going to continue working that pattern around to the opposite side stitch marker. You want to keep these stitches fairly loose, just to make sure that you're not gathering or pulling in your fabric at all around the back. So it's just 3 single crochets and a half double crochet. And we're almost at the opposite front edge now. Single crochet around the chain 2, half double crochet into the single crochet around the chain 2, and then single crochet in this last double crochet cluster here. And now we're going to continue working straight up the front edge. So here was the chain 2 and the single crochet that began this row that we don't work into. This is counting as a row end for us. And then here's the double crochet 3 together. Then here's the next chain 2 and single crochet, and here's the double crochet 3 together. So these are row ends, and we're going to place 3 single crochet around each row end. So I'm going to go directly into this chain 2 space with 2 single crochets, and then work a single crochet in this single crochet, and then there's that next chain 2, so I need to place 3 single crochets evenly across this section here. It doesn't really matter exactly where you place your stitches, as long as you're sort of doing it evenly down. So where you've decided to place your 3 single crochet for that row end, work your single crochets in roughly the same places so that they will be evenly spaced across these row ends. So for me, I'm working 2 single crochets around the chain 2s and a single crochet in top of the single crochet, so that's one row end, and then I am working 3 single crochets into our double crochet 3 together. So I'm going to space 2 evenly into the side of this cluster, and then 1 in this stitch here. Again, I'm just keeping my stitches nice and loose, just to make sure that I'm not puckering or gathering the fabric up around that front edge. So I actually just went ahead and placed a stitch marker back in that last foundation single crochet so that I could keep track of when I got to the neckline. Don't worry if your row ends look a little bit wobbly or a little bit wonky like this does. We're doing another round of single crochet and that is going to just neaten up that edge. So I can take the stitch marker out now. And I'm going to continue working single crochets around the neckline, working 1 single crochet for every foundation single crochet. So I'm working in the underside. Apart from these raglan seams, this corner stitch here that begins our seam, I'm going to skip over that just so that I can give my neckline a little bit more of a curve instead of a corner. So I've already worked a single crochet in this one, which was where my marker was. Now I'm working a single crochet in the underside of each foundation single crochet around. There's my corner. Skipping the corner and just working into the next. I'm going to do the same when I get to the other back corner of my raglan seam. Coming up to my next corner seam here. So it's in this stitch here, so I'm going to single crochet in the one before and single crochet in the one after it. And I'm going to continue working around the neckline until I get to my beginning slip knot, which is right here. And so I didn't need a marker in this side because this helps me to see exactly where I began the row ends for this front edge. So we single crochet in that foundation single crochet here, and now we're going to go directly into the row ends, placing our stitches in the same way we did on the other side. So this is a single crochet and a chain 2. So I'm going to put a single crochet in the single crochet and then 2 single crochets around the chain, and then I'm going to place 3 single crochets in this cluster along the edge. So I've got 1, 2 and 3. So then I've got the next single crochet and chain 2, and I'm going to place 3 in those. So keeping track of your row ends and which ones you're working around will help you keep track of how many stitches you've worked into them. That's the next single crochet and chain 2. So I know between here and here I have to place another 3. So 1, 2 and 3. And I'm going to work over these row ends just like I did on the opposite side until I come back all the way around to where I began my round. 1, 2 and 3 here, and this is the last stitch of the round. So I've just roughly been counting in my head, but honestly if you have a slightly different stitch count it really doesn't matter, as long as the stitches look roughly even over the row ends you'll be absolutely fine. Now we're joining this round with a slip stitch. When I'm working on the right side, I like to join with an invisible slip stitch so that the bump is on the back. So that just means taking your hook out of your working loop and inserting it from the back to the front of the first stitch, replacing the loop and pulling it through to the back. So this is an invisible slip stitch just so that you can't really see it from the front. And that's the end of round 3. Now I'm going to work round 4, which is the same for all sizes, and it's just a single crochet in each stitch around. So a chain 1 and single crochet around. You might be able to tell I'm making an effort to make my tension nice and even, to make my stitches nice and even, so that when we do the last slip stitch round, I have a nice straight line across my back. I wouldn't worry too much though if you still have a slight wobbly edge. When you block it, that will really help neaten out all the stitches and the edges. And I'm almost back to the beginning of my round here. Coming up on the last couple of stitches. Where's it gone? There it is. And I don't really need to join per se, because the next round is simply a round of slip stitches. So I'll take this marker out. And I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to work slip stitches kind of loosely, my tension can get a little bit funny. So I'm going to go up 1 hook size, which makes me happy because it matches my whip. So this is the size 6, which is a J hook. I've previously been using the size 5.5 for the rest of the cardigan. But for this last round of slip stitches, I'm just going to go up a hook size to help me keep them nice and loose, and I'm going to slip stitch in the back loop of each stitch around. Okay, I'm coming up to the end and it looks like I've just about made it with the amount of yarn I had left. Now I put a stitch marker where I began, so I'm just going to finish 1 stitch earlier, and then I can do an invisible join, just to make it so that our join is as seamless as it can be. So I'm going to cut this yarn, even though I don't have very much left. And I'm going to pull my hook out, thread my needle, and then here's the stitch I want to join it to. I'm just going to go under the top 2 loops, pull that nice and securely, and now I'm going to go down through the center of the last slip stitch I made. There we go. And now you can barely see where that join is. Then I'm going to weave in any of those ends, and here's the finished body of the cardigan. So this is what it looks like laid out flat. I can't actually even fit it in one shot, but I really love the way this slip stitch trim looks. I think it just finishes it off really nicely. If you wanted to, you could add some more slip stitch rounds to make that trim a little bit thicker. It's totally up to you and how you want the finished item to look. I just have a few ends now to weave in to finish off this body, mainly just where I joined new skeins of yarn. So I'm going to do that, and then I hope you come back and join me next week, where we are going to finish off the last week of the crochet along, working the sleeves. And I'll see you then.